Welcome to Death Holler. Do you like scary movies? Welcome to Season 3, Slash or Pass. There will be laughter, tears, tender moments,
Jason, my special boy.
but most of all, screams. Remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is always advised. We hope you have a killer time.
Spoiler.
Spoiler.
Jinx.
Welcome to Death Holler. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Death. Joining me, as you just heard, is La Urena, my co-host. And when we're not out fighting Kandarian demons, we're recording this podcast for you folks. This is going to be a very spoilerific review of Evil Dead Rise. We'll give you kind of our thoughts on whether to watch the movie and the first few minutes. But then after that, and we're going to announce it, spoilers will be possible. And if you don't want to get the movie spoiled for you, then you go watch it and then come back and see what you think as far as like our thoughts matching up with your own.
Yeah. I mean, when it's called a spoiler review, you just need to be on high alert is what it comes down to. I mean, I love a good spoiler review. And I'll probably listen. There is one movie I have not watched that there was the first half that was good. And then they're like, okay, we're getting into spoilers. And I still haven't listened to the second half because I still haven't watched the movie. And I don't know which direction I'm going. It's been a few weeks. So,
which movie was that?
I'm trying to remember. It's the one with Drax. Something
Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing very good and bad.
Tangent, but the thing about that is it's M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, but what you see is what you get. There's no twist in that movie.
I did hear that. There's no twist.
That is the one thing that seems to be the biggest, whether you love it or hate it, because everybody's like, there's no twist. This was just straight up what they said it was. And it's like, okay.
Just like most other movies there on the market.
Most movies, yeah. He doesn't have to have a gimmick every time.
Yeah, sorry. That's what he was known for a few times, guys. Come on now.
But again, Donnie G, this is a spoiler cast. Anywho, just your thoughts. Should our viewers, listeners, should they go out and watch this movie?
It's a slash for me. I think you should go watch it, and I think you should see it in a theater.
And that's coming from somebody who swore that she would never watch it again, folks.
Oh, yes. I will never absolutely fucking ever watch this movie ever again. But you have to see this and you have to see it in the theater for the utmost of scares. I don't know how, because I brought my kids, and I think me and my son just mirrored each other. Like, our feet were up. My hand was across my mouth. I wish I had my husband here right now to tell you guys what he witnessed, because I had my hand across my mouth the entire time, because to prevent me from screaming, or to prevent theater people from having to hear me scream or make any noise. I was the child you don't want to sit next to. My son did really well. I didn't hear him, and we were lucky we had a wall behind us before it went to the next row of people. I think that's good that they're starting to do that, because you get a lot of people that, I don't know, maybe they're a little more annoying. You don't want to sit directly behind them, see them move, squirm, do a bunch of stuff. So I had comfort in that. But other than that, yeah, I was clenching so tight through the whole movie that I actually was sweating. Like, I left with a bunch of back sweat. I didn't even have the seat heaters on, because my body I was never comfortable in that movie at all. So.
and on my side of it, and this is not to say that I disliked the movie, because actually I enjoyed it quite a bit, but there was one point where I caught myself drifting off. So,
shit.
That's lack of sleep more than anything, but still, it's I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, as far as like the scares go, Smile actually got me worse, but as far as like, oh shit, but I did enjoy this. I'm going to throw this out there because this is not a spoiler, and I feel like this will ruin the movie for you if you go in there thinking this. The cabin scene that you see in the trailers is a bookend segment. Has nothing to do with the rest of the movie.
Yes.
So,
but you need it. You need them.
It does help set up a lot, and it actually sets up, a possible path going forward. So it serves a purpose, but just know that if you're going into it, it's like, oh shit, they went back to the cabin, and no, this is an apartment building. That's where you're going to spend all of your movie at. So,
and I'm
be aware of that.
I liked that. Did you like the setting?
The apartment building, I like how they set it up. Yes,
I think,
and we'll get into it in the spoiler part of it, but I do like the addition to the lore that they came up with, because going back to the original movies, they always set up the fact there was only one book, and and that sort of thing. So they added some things, but here's the thing for folks out there, and this goes to what Urana was talking about. This is not the original Evil Dead. All the goofiness with Ash that that people love, it is not there. This is more like the Fede Alvarez remake, but it doesn't seem to be directly connected to the remake. So take that as how you will. And if you're a fan of the remake, just be aware that I think the gore, even though it's there, and believe me, there's some real gore in it. I don't feel like it's ratcheted up as much as the remake was. Did you feel the same way, or do you even remember the remake?
I can't compare to the remake, and I was going to ask you if we have to watch it, because I saw on the Dog Dies website that the dog dies.
What are you talking about in the remake?
In the remake. It's a 2013
I don't even
remake.
remember that part, to be perfectly honest with you.
They said it was really well done. Like, they didn't physically show the dog getting beat to death.
Okay, yeah, that's probably what happens in it. The remake shows a lot more body mutilation, and that's not a spoiler for that movie. It's just there, and I don't feel like this movie really amped that up as much. But what gore was in it was, for the gorehounds out there, it was serviceable. So.
Yeah. Trying to think, the thing that it was for me and that doesn't bother you is I don't think possession bothers you. It gets me big time.
Yeah. That's another trigger warning. I had somebody else ask me, they's like, if I'm really put off by demon possession movies, and this person said that they actually love the previous trilogy, if they, or the originals, because of, I guess, the humor and everything and the way they portrayed the Deadites, would this movie be any good for them? And I watched it, and I'm like, no. In fact, I mean, it's more along the lines, if that stuff triggers you, then I would even, quoting that TikTok meme of the black preacher, it's like, hell to the no, no, don't watch this.
Yeah.
It is definitely demon possession.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, and I can't say that for any other Evil Dead movie, it's just like them. They don't fucking stop.
No, I mean, it's the same, but I mean, it's more, I mean, like I said, they don't play up any of the goofiness of it like the original trilogy did. It's all like you're in this world, and it's, I mean, there's really no relief from the, what's going on.
There isn't. My body got a full workout from sitting and clenching the entire time. So while that is, I do like being scared. Like, I left the theater shaking. It was, if you can't handle your possessions, and I absolutely cannot, I don't recommend it. Like, I have to be honest. Yeah,
it's definitely along those lines. As far as me, like I said, that I don't know. Ghost movies tend to do that more for me than possession movies, and this is definitely along the line of possession. So I was just like, all right, whatever. But as far as before we get into the spoilers, would I, do I recommend it? Hell yeah, go watch it. I mean, it's good. There's no reason not to if you're a horror fan. I mean, we'll get into some of the complaints people are having a little bit in the spoiler cast, but I don't feel they're as blatant or as warranted as some of these folks are bringing out, and some of them are just outright wrong and like political ideology. I feel like as far as like what they're trying to bring up with regards to the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not a spoiler, but neither one of us feels like it's woke. I mean, despite some of the claims out there. So if you hear that and that kind of turns you off, and I realize why you would be turned off by that, because Lord knows we've got too many woke fucking movies destroying, everything that's entertainment. It doesn't have, I mean, there might be woke elements to the movie, but they're not blatant, and they don't force them upon you. It's all about the horror, and it's all about the lore of the movie. They don't preach to you like some of these new movies do.
I feel like the preachiest thing that there was in the movie, and this is definitely not a spoiler, so don't worry, is I saw the daughter making a sign for high school that said, "Make Earth Cool Again."
Oh yeah,
that was so funny.
Shit
yeah,
that, like, teenagers do. They think that they're going to, somehow change the world, like with some little sign that they might. Yeah, that's just the thing.
So that was the only thing in the film that I saw that I was like, shut the fuck up.
It's actually funny, because when we do the Nightmare on Elm Street podcast next, which is going to be for you folks 4 through 6. I have included Alone in the Dark with that, just to kind of go back, because that's one of New Line's first movies. And there is a scene in that movie where one of the main characters is a nuclear war or nuclear arms protester. And it's the same kind of bullshit, but just done in the 80s. It's like, you can't hug with nuclear arms. That's that whole thing,
Oh my God. Don't believe me, just watch.
But we both recommend it, even if Uranus not going to ever watch it again.
Nope.
So, and with that, spoilers. And please, for the love of God, Donnie G, stop listening if you plan on watching this goddamn movie.
Yeah, sorry. Right. I don't even know how many minutes we're into recording, and he's going to be like, but wait. And it's like, no, we have to get to the good stuff. I'm sorry.
All right. Now that we're in spoilers, I enjoy the fact that they expanded the lore in this movie, and I love the fact of how the book was introduced in this. What did you think about that?
I thought they did really well. It was an earthquake, and Los Angeles, they picked a good location. They picked a good location for what we were dealing with in terms of poverty. You could tell that the family was in a little bit of poverty. It was a single mom household with 3 kids, although I don't see how a woman like her could afford even the apartment she was living in. But I digress. We don't know the whole story.
Which is completely ridiculous, because here I am on the, living where I live at, in Eastern Kentucky, and I'm watching it, and I see that shithole apartment, and I'm thinking, I'm like, with a woman like that, she should be able to afford like a, at least like a, 3-bedroom nice ranch house somewhere. But that is
bitch, you thought
that's the difference in cost of living, folks. I mean,
well, and here's the thing: is that apartment was huge. If you look at it, it was it was a shitty apartment. Don't get me wrong; the building was run down, but that apartment was huge. It allotted each kid. Well, no, there was a bunk. No, there was. Was there a bunk in one of the bedrooms?
The 2 of the girls shared a room.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe.
So, but look there was.
It was a friend-size apartment from
yes,
it
was.
TV show Friends.
Huge living room. There was a separate room just for the son to have a fucking DJ center, because, I mean, that wasn't his bedroom. That was literally just a room where he did his music and DJing.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, the bathroom was huge and nice. Now, again, they didn't do a good job. Yes, the apartment in general looked like the apartment building was shitty, but that's pretty nice compared to how shitty it can get. Now, that being said, I would think an apartment like that in Los Angeles would probably run about $3,000 a month or more. Probably more because of its size.
ridiculous.
Yes. So just to give you a perspective, and for anyone listening that is from California, I mean, you do kind of have to see. You can kind of tell from if you watch the preview alone for this or the trailer, you can see the bathroom, you could see the kitchen. Some of the stuff is a little bit state of the art, and maybe she had accomplished that a little bit while she was married. So okay, great, but. Yeah, and you have to assume by the movie too that she's a tattoo artist.
Is that what she was doing? Because I couldn't figure out what her job was. I know she was making like this, this kind of needle-like device, but I guess she might have been a tattoo. I don't know. I didn't really, because I mean, she was using pretty. I mean, the older like equipment that she was hooking up to like power the needle gun or whatever it was, like it seemed like she was more of like a tech expert of some sense, the way that she was like applying all that with a soldering iron and all that.
It's possible. It is possible. They just didn't do a good job, but it didn't matter at the end of the day. I did see that. The son in the movie, which we'll talk about, him, he looked like a 12-year-old kid, kind of like a tall 12-year-old kid, and had tattoos. And so I couldn't tell if this kid was a kid and the mom just gave him tattoos. She wasn't exactly the best mom. She was very let my kids be free, which to a degree, okay, whatever. But I couldn't tell if the kid was of age or just a kid with tattoos because his mom was a tattoo artist.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. I wasn't paying attention to that, to be really honest with you, because like, I mean, I was just like, okay, they're setting this up that she's, and I knew that little device that she was making would come into effect somewhere else. But when it was specifically with the lore that I'm talking about that I thought was interesting was they set it up that like these Catholic priests or whatever back in like the 20s had a very, and which just goes back to the original movies and what it was originally based on anyways, had a very H.P. Lovecraft feel, because you had these priests that had found the Necronomicon, or at least a version, because I think they established in this movie there was 3, if I was remembering right, if I heard it right, because it's playing on this record that the son is playing, and they did it very well with like the scratchiness of the record and all that.
Oh yeah,
and how he had to actually spin it by hand to get it to the right tempo, so that it didn't, because I mean the modern player wouldn't play it at the right speed, but. It was like they mentioned something about there was 3 versions of the Necronomicon, which basically set up the fact that Ash should still be in this universe because his version was one of the 3.
Okay.
And they found one, and they basically it was entombed within this like underground vault that was released by the earthquake, as we were discussing earlier. And I just love how the vault was like hidden underground. I mean, that, it makes, I could see that under a city, set up like that.
Yeah.
How it was. And I like how there was all the religious, icon or, iconography and all that, like the tokens or whatever to protect or ward off the evil spirits. They had like the Latin written in the background over top of the basically it's like it's not a mausoleum, but whatever the area that was holding the Necronomicon, they had like sanctum whatever behind it, like in Latin, like these prayers over it. And I just love that whole setup. It was like, okay, this is like a good way to kind of establish that they didn't have a way to defeat the Necronomicon or do anything with it, so they had to just wall it off. And then the kid finds it because he gets to snooping or whatever, because he sees the ground's broken up after the earthquake.
It's weird because it looked like a mausoleum, and then all the crosses hanging above it.
Yeah.
That was,
and then they had like they had the medallions of whatever saint, there to kind of St. Christopher or whoever, like on top of it too. And
I got a question though.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is well established that nothing in this movie. Hold on, I gotta let my demon dog out. Give me a second.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, so it's established in almost all the films that there's really nothing that can stop this force. And you get that a lot from the record playing, where it reminded me a lot of Resident Evil. Oh, God, which Resident Evil? Maybe the first one, where you get the diary of the person who had released this, I don't know, monstrosity. Mm-hmm. And General's like, well, it's doom for me. Like, I've been here for X amount of times, and this is what's happening. And that person eventually turns into a zombie. I'm sure this priest ended up just dying, because I don't know that we finally got to the end of what happened to him. But he was...
No, but
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the final recording by him, he says that, he talks about how the people who were infected, all the other priests that tried to help him, they ended up, he dismembered them, which is what, has been established since, the very first Evil Dead movie, that's, dismemberment. But he even went so far as to say that the dismembered pieces were still alive, which, they showed in the movie at the end. And so he said that there's really no way to ever defeat it. And of course, this last part is being played by one of the main characters, who's a deadite at this point, and using her elongated fingernail to which was pretty cool.
That was creepy. I didn't like that. It was so good though. But yeah, so that being said, okay, you really can't defeat it, because even when you dismember, it's gonna find another body to jump into, which is, by the way, that's rape. You entered into that person's body without permission.
You're talking about a series that has a tree rape scene. So,
that is true.
You're just...
That is true. Okay. Anyways, possession in general is that. How did they... Okay. What... I'm trying to put into words. Okay, so they had it in this mausoleum that... It's funny. Well, mausoleum type situation where it's in this... I don't know, tomb of some sort. And there's a crack just big enough to reach. Oh, I guess the crack would be from the earthquake. Anyways.
Yeah, it was from the earthquake, yeah.
What did the priests, how did it get there? How did they think they were going to keep anything from getting to it? Were they trying, they weren't trying to keep normal people from getting to it because they had the crosses and everything.
Their thought was that if they sealed off the Necronomicon, that its influence, and they sealed off all that religious iconography, that it would seal off its influence and not summon more Kandarian demons.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
That was their, because they couldn't stop it. So it was, and they knew the Necronomicon was part of the force summoning the demons.
Yeah.
So they thought if they basically sealed it up, that they could do that with it.
Okay.
And it kind of fits the established lore in the series, because it's the disappearance of the Necronomicon from part 2 and 3 that kind of removes the demonic threat, because it gets all sucked back in time. And then Ash has the opportunity to completely destroy to use the Necronomicon or to do like a binding on it or something like that. But he fucks up the spell when he originally picks it up and unleashes the Necronomicon, demon stuff to begin with. So it's kind of like he's both the one who's supposed to end it, and he's the one that starts it at the same time.
Yeah. Okay, so that it is known, and I'd be surprised if at this point nobody knew. I haven't watched every single, Evil Dead movie. I did watch a little bit of Ash versus Evil Dead. I've seen, obviously, the original Evil Dead. I don't know if I've seen part 2. I think I have.
Part 2 is just a remake of the first, but with more humor added. That's literally it.
Okay.
It's actually a good movie. It's just, it's literally a bigger budget, redo of the first movie, but they do go through at the end of part 1, the demon makes its way into Ash. So you think, okay, or even our hero gets possessed.
Yeah.
But in 2, they established that he is a chosen one because he's the only person who has ever fought the demonic presence back off.
Yeah.
And was able to regain his own humanity again.
Which is interesting. Yeah. And what I wanted to start with in terms of this conversation of me not seeing all the movies is, let's start with the book. What did we think about the look of the book? Because you started off with how we got to the book. It was a Los Angeles earthquake that rattled seemingly just the area of where they're at, which is this shitty rundown apartment building, which, by the way, is getting condemned.
It's getting condemned, and they're going to level it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they've said. It's stated in the movie.
So that's where we're at. What did we think about the look of the book before we even get into the look of the demon?
So here's my two thoughts about the book. The original book, the one that Ash found, and also in the remake, is cooler just because it has the face on it. You can clearly tell it's made out of human flesh, like they've established. This one was interesting because it had teeth to this, that like bound it together, which is not like the established. It's not like the established lore for the other Necronomicon, which I guess is why it's like the second of the three books.
Yeah.
And I liked it. But the actual look of the book itself, it just had like it looks like some veins or something across it. So it was not as impressive as far as the actual like book face itself, but the teeth that were binding up the side of it that required blood to actually open up the book. Now that was a cool addition, I thought.
Yeah, I wasn't too impressed by the book. I thought the teeth looked very plasticky to me, but I thought the pages of the book itself and the way they sounded when they turned really did sound like human skin. Like if you were to think of a book made out of human skin, that's what I would imagine it sounded like.
Yeah, it was definitely, I mean, it had like, if nothing else, like an animal skin, like lamb skin or something like that, like texture to it. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I would go on the record to say that in terms of books, I would say that the book from the original Hocus Pocus looked better.
I would agree with that. Yeah, but just because,
on the outside.
But it's also, but that book is also very much in the vein of like the Necronomicon from Evil Dead.
Yes.
So it kind of fits from the original Evil Dead, I should say.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of fits that way.
Okay, so now we've got this kid that, it's always some dumb kid, that after an earthquake decides to go underground because he sees a vault. And long story short, he sees some cool shit. He finds some records. He's a DJ, so they establish the story very well. Or he's an up-and-coming DJ. He wants to be a DJ. And he goes underground, dumbest shit ever. I don't know. I feel like no person in California would do that.
They set up a good reason why he initially went down there, because they established it was a bank vault. They established his mom was broke.
Oh, yeah.
And that his mom had no money, so they didn't know where they were going to be living at here at the end of the month whenever they were condemning the building. So in theory, he was going down there to see if there was any old money that was in that vault so that he could maybe like use that to like get another situation. True.
Okay, so he goes down there. He gets it despite hearing weird shit. He gets the book. We see the book. We've just talked about it. It did not take long for the mom to get fucking possessed.
No, it's like the original movies that way. I mean, and I'll give them this: the original movies, the person in the group, both in the remake and in the original movie, who ends up finding the book, has worse motivations than the kid does, because they literally go down the basement. They find the book there and a tape recording, and due to sheer curiosity, they play it, and and then they fuck everything up. Yeah. The kid had the curiosity, so that matches, but he also had a reason to go down to the vault.
That's true.
Which was a little bit more altruistic than just like, hey, we're fucking around anyways, why not?
They set it up really well. Yeah, definitely. Question: would you, out of curiosity, if you were in some cool ass cabin, the Scooby Gang gets together, they do that trip they finally want to do, and it's a nice cabin, not a rundown looking cabin, okay? We made it, and we have a decent looking cabin, and we find something like that. Are you doing it out of curiosity?
Fuck no.
Exactly.
I've seen too many horror movies. I'm not doing that. We don't fuck around with Ouija boards around here, so we're not going to fuck around with that stuff either.
We're all going to go home if somebody whips out one of those, so I don't care if you call your dick a Ouija board. If you whip it out, I'm going home.
I will say, though, I mean, that would be the book. The tape recording and the record's a different story, because my curiosity would be piqued. And that's the one that gets you in trouble, because that's the one that actually summons the demon to begin with, because that's the one that's got the incantations on it.
Yeah,
so
which is why I'm very hesitant about playing it. I didn't like it. I did cover my ears when they were playing it. That's how effective this movie was, is that I really felt in my heart that by covering my ears, I was protecting myself.
You need to go back and watch the remake sometime, because the remake has the same thing but done like in a tape form, and it would probably have the same effect on you.
I've definitely seen the second one if there's a tape involved, because I remember a tape being involved. Well, wait, didn't the first one have a tape, or what was the first one?
The very original had a tape, but I'm saying the remake is very close to it. But it's like this movie. It's like, I mean, everything you hated about this movie as far as the demonic stuff, the remake has that, and probably worse, I would say, to be honest with you. So, but yeah, the possession of the mother is really quick, going back to your statement there. But I kind of feel like it is in all these movies anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I thought for a second they were going to do, like, they've had the tree rape scene in like both the original movie. I think they might have shown like a scene of it in part 2 or something similar. And in the remake, they definitely had it. I thought they were going to do that again with a mom in this one, in the elevator, because they had the cords, like the electrical cords, like snaking around her. And I thought for sure they were going, but they didn't. They held off on doing that this time, which is
they separated it from the others.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a good change, I mean, or bad change, depending upon your point of view, but it's definitely a change from all the other movies that way. Yeah,
why did they have to chain her up like that if there wasn't going to be? Now, the actress herself did say, she made it appear that, look at, I was in this to win it. She's just a model. She's not even really an actress. And she was like, look, if they had done it, I would have, but...
She's primarily known as Princess Oslog from the Vikings TV series.
Oh, so she has done that. Okay, the article I read didn't even talk about that, to be honest with you. She's really happy to do this horror film, and she did say, she's like, I'm glad they didn't do the rape scene, but she made it seem like, but if they did, I would have done it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, so getting into that, I mean, because we're just going to scattershot with this stuff, and I mean, we might as well discuss it. Her as an actress, I mean, I want your thoughts on this here in a second, but here's my thoughts on her. She did a really good job conveying the scenes, and I will say this, I think she's conveying the character, and I think she's actually one of the best deadites I've seen in a movie, even counting the remake, because she was like the portrayal that she went with, and a creature in a meat suit that didn't really know how to control. So every time that she moved, it was like it wasn't moving the way that a person would, more like a skinwalker movement.
Well, it was like and they broke her. Well, they broke all her fucking bones
because, like, yeah, well, they broke her bones, but I'm saying, like, even outside of that, whenever you see her move, it's like she's only using the part of her body that's necessary for the movement at the time. It's like she's not like a human would whenever you see everything working, like in tandem or whatever, because that's how our brains are operating. It's like, no, this creature is like some being that has never had a physical form, so it's just using the parts it needs to get her moving at the time. And I thought that was a really neat way to portray the Deadite.
Oh, definitely. Okay, wait, hold on one second.
The one thing I was going to...
Oh, no, you're good. You can continue talking.
Okay. The one thing I was going to say that I didn't necessarily like was at times, and I don't know if this actress, I didn't look to see. I mean, I guess I can pull that up here in a second. It was hard to understand her a few times in the movie, and I was trying really hard to listen to her, but it was like she was slurring her words, and not so much from just the effect of trying to, sound like, like she was demonic, which, I mean, they did that, but it was like almost at times like the way that she said the words was not like, it was a little out of, it was a little inaudible. Like, it was just, the way that the words were coming out. So that was the only thing I really had an issue with. But the look and the way that she kind of portrayed the Deadite, I thought she did a really good job with it.
Yeah. In terms of her speaking, I'm going to say right off the bat, one thing they established, and they did a good job at establishing a lot of things in this film, but then it kind of ebbed and flowed. So... yes, they did a good job of setting up, but then it wasn't consistent. I don't care. But she had a broken jaw. So when she first started talking, and it was a demon inside of her that probably had never used words, they showed her adjust her broken jaw. And then
I missed that part, so that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it was during the bloody omelet scene, which we see in the previews. And she's like, she sounds more clear in the preview, but in the movie, she sounded like I had a wonderful dream. And she
That's the
repeats
part I didn't
it.
like.
Yeah.
Yes, that. Yeah.
And that was her. And then shortly after, she moves her jaw, not with her hands. It's like she adjusts it, like we do when we're popping our jaw or something. I don't know how to explain it. And then you see, oh, that jaw is fucking broken. And by the way, just like this demon has never really walked in a flesh suit before, or meat sack, if you will, probably have never had to work with a broken jaw either.
That's true. So I mean, I actually on a repeat view would actually enjoy that. And actually that negative would turn into a positive. And she's from Australia, so that wouldn't be, I mean, even if it was an accent coming through, it wouldn't have been, I mean, because I was thinking, because I know she played like a Finnish, princess or whatever on Vikings. I thought it might be like the Finnish accent coming through, but Australian wouldn't have really made that much of a difference to like drag the voice unless she was portraying somebody with a broke jaw. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm glad I could at least fix that part for you. So here's what, okay. I don't remember a lot of scary movies, and I think there's something about me that's like, if it was super scary, and I did find Evil Dead pretty scary. Like, I do enjoy it now. I can watch it and not be too terrified. Possession still scares me, but Evil Dead, I think, is a great intro to possession movies, really. It's not too real, and it's definitely comical. But I had forgotten parts of Evil Dead that when I was watching this movie, I kind of started to remember again. And one of the things specifically that got me in this film is the fact that it can possess other people as well, on top of the one that's there.
Yeah, usually anybody, and it's inconsistent on who gets, who gets possessed, and that's the one thing that the series has never really established, how, because usually if somebody, their skin gets like do that, they are possessed or like.
Reverend, hang tight for a minute. My internet is acting stupid, and I didn't hear a damn thing you said.
Okay,
hold on, that sucked because I was like, oh, he's getting into it right now. Hold on, I'm gonna mark the time so I can edit this. And then, okay, so right after I stopped talking about how they can possess anybody, and then you started talking, but it really got. Yeah. Let me see. Say a few words.
I saw you were frozen, so I figured something was up. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're better now. So can you please get back into that?
Okay, so what I was going to say is, in the original movies, it's pretty inconsistent on whether or not, like, who actually gets, possessed by the Deadites, because it's usually if you're attacked by a Deadite and you've got broken skin of some kind, like it's almost like a virus enters the body or something like that. You see the people slowly, like a lot of the characters start getting corrupted, like the daughter did in this movie, where like the actual place where they were attacked starts to, like, you get the black, corruption coming out of it, kind of goes in the veins, and then they become a Deadite. And that was even established in the original series, but it's not consistent, because some of the characters, like in this movie, for instance, like the final girl, she ends up like getting her leg, with a cheese grater scene, which was pretty graphic, and actually, rough to watch. She gets attacked like that, but then she doesn't get corrupted. So, and it's the same way with Ash. There's several times that Ash is attacked in the original series, and he doesn't. I mean, he eventually gets hit by a Kandarian demon, but like only like not from the corruption of being attacked, but later. But a lot of times they showed Ash, he was getting punched. So I mean, it wasn't like the actual breaking of skin. So I don't understand like why her wound didn't necessarily, but they set up that she was pregnant. So I'm wondering if that will be a thing going forward. Like, maybe the baby itself or something is corrupted.
Here's my theory. And apparently I catch more than I think that I do, because I always think that I miss key details. Okay. So in terms of the daughter that gets a tattoo to her face by the demon mom, the mom licked it. Mm-hmm. And so a part of her, it's like intentional. She intentionally infected that wound And that's how I think the daughter became one. Everyone else becomes one when they are actually dead because they have no control over their body anymore. They have no way to fight it. They're completely dead, which is how everybody else in the hallway, and yes, folks, lots of fucking brutal deaths through a fucking, not keyhole, but a door. What do they call those?
Yeah, it's a peephole.
A peephole. There we go. Scenes through the peephole, I think, was one of the scariest things I've seen in a while. I think it was also sad because nobody was safe, and there was people that definitely needed help. And I mean, I was like, oh my God, no one's fucking safe. So, anyways, that being said, though, those people were dead. They had no possession over their own body, so they couldn't be. They could be possessed because there was no soul there to fight. So there's that.
That's true.
And the son, the cheese grate scene, she didn't intentionally infect that. It happened, but she didn't lick it. However, that being said, somebody swallowed an eyeball one time in Evil Dead, also in this film, and they became infected. And was that eyeball intentional? Because the youngest daughter, who is also a final girl in this movie, as well as the aunt, or the sister, which it's weird to say because it's the demon's sister. Excuse me, not the demon, but the pre-demon's sister when she was human. That they get blood all up in them, on their face, in their, the blood,
just like Ash did in the original series.
And they didn't get infected by the blood. So it's weird. It has to be intentional.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of an inconsistency, but you just roll with it with these movies. And I agree with you. Any dead body is a potential vessel for a deadite. So it's not going to, so that made sense. That scene where she tears the guy's eye out and then spits in the other one. That's a good nod to the original movie where Henrietta's eye gets stomped out and then lands in somebody's mouth. But at the same time, it was brutal. That was a brutal scene. And you mentioned something I want to get back to. The Sam Raimi-esque camera angles, especially the peephole scene. I love that in this movie. They were very artistically done. It was a wall-eyed vision. You couldn't really see a whole lot, and there was more implied than there was actually shown in that particular instance. But how they showed it was very artistic and very well done, I thought.
Yeah, you saw people going for attacks.
And we're talking about the gore scenes.
Oh God, whew, the gore.
Yeah. And as far as the gore scenes, there was several good ones, whenever the daughter was puking up the maggots or whatever, the black mass of bugs or whatever, and then she was chewing on the glass later. That was kind of a nod to the Fede Alvarez remake, although in the remake there was a scene of this chick legitimately cutting her own tongue with a piece of glass, and you could see it splitting as she went. So I feel that the gore was a little bit more amped up in the remake than in this one, but it's fine. I didn't need it to be that bad. I do like the reverse shot they did in this movie where they were actually in the elevators that filled with blood before it just released all the blood to the once it opened up. That was pretty cool.
How excited were you when you saw that? Because as soon as I heard the ding, I was here comes the blood.
Well, I kind of had it spoiled a little bit because I was on and I didn't mean to, but I was just scrolling through Facebook, and one of the groups I'm in, somebody mentioned they were elevator with blood, and I was just like, are you back?
I'm back. Yeah, I could hear you. I heard elevator with blood, and then I was and then it went out. I was like, what? What did you see? Okay. What did you hear?
No, what I was saying is I just saw somebody mention that there's an elevator of blood, and I was like, okay, and I think they might even said The Shining, so I was completely waiting for that scene whenever it happened. And it didn't ruin it. I was prepared for it. I did want to discuss some things though, because before we, I don't know how much more we're going to do this. As far as I love the Thresher scene though at the end. If we're going to keep talking about the gore, because that's a good way to deadites.
Yeah.
when her head was left or whatever, and they did that funny line where she was like, you look like mother, and then she's like, fuck you, and she's basically kicks the head into the thresher.
Yeah.
I love that scene where she's got the chainsaw or she's got the shotgun and she pulls an ash where she looks at the mass of and that too, like the whole mass of bodies with all the limbs and everything coming after. And cause that's not been any of the movies so far. It's like, come get some or whatever. It was like a total ash line that they added in. Good nod back to the originals. But, so what are your thoughts on the acting in the movie? Because I bring that up because I've seen some complaints online saying that the actress who plays, like the mother who becomes possessed, everybody thinks that she did a fine job and she was good, but they said that the final girl is flat in her delivery. I didn't feel that, but I just want to know what your opinion was.
I have to disagree. Yeah, I don't think she was flat at all. I mean, she came to get help. And here she is doing the helping. Can you imagine? Even if I was prepared to go defend my sister, I couldn't do what she did. I think I would become a deadite in a moment's time. Not intentionally, I don't think it would work out that way. But in terms of delivering,
they're trying to imply that she doesn't like. I think they're trying to imply that she doesn't react as much as somebody in that situation should, freaking out and everything. I mean,
what is that going to do?
I feel like she gave enough of the freak out in her facial performance.
Yeah, facial definitely. She didn't scream. She didn't go crazy. She didn't lose her mind. She looked more defeated before she was defeated.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to deal with this?
You could tell that she was in a bad place in her life and that sort of thing. You could tell that she was in a bad place and that she was just dealing with the shit as it came to her. And I don't know. I didn't get that feeling. I thought that she did actually a pretty good job. I mean, if anything, I feel like the only character in the movie that kind of hit me as flat was probably the daughter, if anything. I felt like she didn't really give as much of a reaction as I felt like she should have.
The youngest daughter?
No, she was fine. I'm talking about the one that gets infected or whatever with the tattoo.
Oh, 100%. She was by far the flattest. I mean, it wasn't the worst acting. I think it came to when it came, but it felt like it was more of a struggle for her than it was for everyone else to do their job, basically. Yeah.
And then the son in the movie, who's a transgender actor, I felt like that he did a really good job, conveying, the fear and everything, and was probably one of the better actors in the movie outside of the mom. But I don't know. You brought it up. Discuss kind of the controversy that's came up over the fact that they about this transgender actor.
Well, I didn't know that this boy was originally a girl and that they're transgender, so they are, turning into a boy, a man, if you will. And they didn't make it a big deal in the movie, I feel. Like we mentioned, nothing about this felt woke. I think it's fine to have a transgender in a movie. It's not the first time that it's happened, and I think they did a really good job. Now, there are people out there that are, and you and I are go woke, go broke. We say that. We've said it before and we mean it, but we're not going to boycott a movie over it in terms of something that's just, I guess, naturally occurring. Like this just happens to be someone they put in the film that is transgender, but they didn't say, hey, how's your transition going? Or how are the pills treating you? Nothing. It was literally just a boy. Now, granted, a feminine looking boy, in my opinion. I didn't care. It's fucking Los Angeles.
Sounding. That was the thing that threw me.
I didn't get that at all. But I also thought this was a kid. I didn't think this was a man by any means.
I think that's what added to it was the fact that the person was supposed to be younger. So that helped the more feminine sounding voice. It was distracting that it brought me a movie, but I heard it. I'm like, that's a that part. And like, yeah, I mean, whenever I saw it later, I'm like, okay, that explains it to a degree. But 100% agree with you. They didn't bring up anything about the transition. They didn't bring up anything about any of that stuff. And I'll give you an example. I mean, even so, there's a movie that came out a few years ago, maybe in 2019, called, I think it's Assassination Nation. And like one of the characters that is transgender. And it's a point in the movie, and they actually bring it up. I mean, but they don't bring it up in the sense of making a political point out of it. It actually fits the context of the movie, because what's happening in that is that everybody's like information has been like leaked on social media, and so like people start like killing because like their worst secrets are out there, and like, you know, for everybody to humiliate them with. And like the transgender character in that has been sleeping, you know, with the like some of the football players, or at least one of them. And, you know, of course the football players, you know, not wanting to seem like they're less macho and all that, you know, or hey, they, you know, they their whole thing is they, you know, they on the attack against the character and try to kill them. And it actually makes sense in the context of the movie. So I really had a problem with that. And I don't have a problem with the transgender in this movie. I don't understand. I mean, if they were preaching to us, yes, that would be stupid, and it doesn't even fit the plot of the movie, but they don't even mention it. It's like not brought up at all.
Yeah. So I can't believe I've heard that people are walking out of the theater shouting, "Go woke, go broke." Now, is this just people making it up to make it seem like we're not accepting a transgender in the film? It's possible, because that has happened before, where it's like you want to show how intolerant people are, especially on a specific side of the political field. You want to be like, oh yeah, they're the worst, and they're just walking out of this film and blah blah blah, especially over the whole Budweiser controversy.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine, but here's the thing: is like if you're welcome to do that for how you feel, other people are allowed to do that too. Fine, whatever. I think it's dumb in this case if it really happened. I don't think there's any reason for anyone to be like, oh my God, this movie's so woke, I'm gonna boycott this film. That's your loss, homie, at this point, because it's actually a really good movie, and they don't really address it. Now, I might have had the wool, the curtains over my eyes and not known. I thought the girl was a boy that was transitioning to a girl, which is funny. So, and I'm completely wrong about that, allegedly.
So that's the point that I saw actually whenever I was in scrolling through Facebook, is that somebody made the point, it's that it's a woke movie. They mentioned the fact that it has all, like, it's mostly a female cast, and with the leads especially, don't have a problem with, but they're trying to make a comment there. The person was, and then they mentioned that both the son and the daughter looked like they were transgender. And I can see that complaint, but like, again, it's never addressed in the movie. And just like I told you in like the Discord chat, whenever we were talking about it, it's set in California.
Yeah.
I mean, to see, kids that are, like maybe, or because the person mentioned that they both look non-binary, that kind of makes sense for that area. I mean, or at least if it's taking place nowadays. I mean, whatever you want to think about that, good or bad, I feel like especially Los Angeles, like they're the ones that are really into this stuff right now. So, I mean, I feel like if there's any, like if they're going to show youth from that area, then that might be the look that they would have.
Yeah, and I just want to put out there that, and you guys have witnessed these different transformations on me. I have had shaved hair, short shaved. I've had a boy haircut before. I've had purple hair. Don't think I've had blue. I've had pink hair. I've had different colored hairs. You would think that would make me look like I'm part of the LGBT ABCDEFG group. You would also think that maybe I was trans or had any kind of indications, and I had done this years ago. And it's so funny because it's like I've done that, and it's not that I'm not an ally or anything. I'm just kind of neutral on it. It's like, okay, well, this is what you are. That's cool. Like, awesome. Because to me, you're just a person. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're gay? That's so cool. Oh my God. That's awesome. I'm just gonna be like, oh, cool, you're gay. Awesome. Where'd you want to go for lunch? I don't care what your preferences are. And if you're proud of it, that's wonderful. I find it hard to be proud about anything nowadays because somebody wants to knock you down for it. So whatever. But yes, California is very known for their women that have boy haircuts and all of our different peacock color hairs, hair colors and everything. And it's so funny because right away you think, oh my God, they're, part of the gay community or something like that. And that's not necessarily true. But that's just, I guess, what we look like. I don't know. We're just a big peacock gay loving state. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it's more the fact that kids tend to follow trends, whether they, they all want to feel unique, but at the same time, they all want to fit in, and it's weird.
It is.
Everybody's been there in high school. And so, California, more so than any other place, has got all that stuff going on.
Yeah.
So for kids to fit in, they start dressing like their peers, and it's a thing. It's just,
It really is. It's the thing to be gay right now. Gay, bi, non-binary. I don't know. All of that stuff. It's really in right now, and it just goes to show how the mind thinks, how you think you have to do that. And I'm bringing this up in kind of a sensitive way, but I'm not sensitive about it. But hear me out for a second. I have a son who's been recently diagnosed with autism, and this is why I'm bringing this up, is because he just has, his brain works differently, and he wants to be a people pleaser, but he goes with what makes him feel good and only what makes him feel good. And he doesn't care if it makes other people uncomfortable. That is how he is in his human form. Whereas the rest of us that think that we have a normal functioning brain, we are not autistic. We're the ones who think, oh my God, I have to do this. I have to be this weight. I have to look like this. We have all these social pressures, if you will. Even into our age, we can't age, blah, blah, blah. And we let that affect us in one way or another. If someone is affected by something in terms of a social issue or image issue, whether they think it or not, whether they think they care or not. But then I have this kid, and he's like Nona's like, oh, why don't you, my daughter, who's very, going through that right now in high school. Oh, you can get both your ears pierced. He's like, I don't want to get both my ears pierced. Like, oh, you can do this. And well, I don't want to do that. And he's like, no, I'm a boy. She's like, you can think like how you want to. He's like, I know. And I'm a boy. And that's just, he doesn't care. And he's not being insensitive to the fact of how my daughter is. That's just how he is. And we need to kind of be a little bit more understanding of people are allowed to think how they want to. If you want to follow the trends, that's fine. That you do you, but if anyone else isn't, you need to fucking leave them the fuck alone, Yeah,
I agree with that 100%. Also, the fact that, we have a real bad problem, at least here in the States, and I feel like we're the worst ones for this from what I understand from other countries and what I've heard from other countries, that you're not allowed to, if you're not allowed to think anything, outside of, whatever's considered, culturally appropriate and all that. There's, and it's kind of stupid because the sense that, you can think however you want to. You don't have to sit there and harass people or hurt them or anything like that, but you're entirely, obliged to your own opinion. So, there's, and it's the problem with people coming in there and saying, well, you can't think this, or you're this way, or you're this, or you're that. And it's like, no, I'm entirely entitled to my opinion. It might not be the right one, but you don't have the right to tell me how to think, and I don't have the right to harm you. So it works both ways.
Yeah, it's becoming a little crazy. And like I said, going back to the film, because that was a tangent, I think they did a good job of including, yes, this is in California, this is how it is. It is. There's no lie at all detected. But I think they did a good job of not shoving it down your throats or anything, It was very natural, and I think that's kind of how things should be, just like, let it be natural, Let's not force anything on anyone. What this movie did to me, however, was force fear down my throat.
Like an eyeball just
like
shoot up and spit right in your throat.
Into my throat, down the throat hole. It was not a good time. God, there was a little bit more I wanted to go over. I wanted to discuss very briefly before, because I know we're getting to the end of this, and this was getting towards the end, a couple of things. The hallway. The hallway was the hallway from hell. I'm on the hallway to hell, okay? They need to make a song of that. the deaths that were involved in that hallway through the people, and the child dying, that fucking got me.
Yeah, that was the one that died right in front of the camera, if I remember right.
And then just remained dead in front of the doorway the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Just in the background, just hanging out.
Just laying there.
One thing that's related to that hallway from hell, which is another complaint I've heard, and I want your thoughts on this, is there's complaints out there saying that the movie about the midway point, around the time that the hallway deaths occur, and then right after that, they say that there's nothing that really goes on in the movie for a good bit before the end ramps things up again and then finishes out. I don't agree with that. I feel like it does a pretty good job of establishing some, like you go back in there and you have the main character, the final girl, hearing the lore that of what went on and all that. The only complaint I would have about it is I feel like they could have, if they would have restructured the story a little bit and had her like somehow got the lore before that, then there wouldn't have even been the lull time that there was, because they jumped right into it, and then they had that moment, and then they were like kind of there, and then they're like, well, shit, we didn't establish the lore, so let's add it in, and I feel like it worked fine, but at the same time, if they restructured it and had all the lore established first, then they would have never had that downtime. But I think the biggest complaint people are saying is that the Deadites, outside in the hallway, just kind of sat out and cooled down for a bit for, just so that exposition could happen, and then and then started ramping things up again once it was delivered. So what's your thoughts on that?
I'll agree that, yes, the Deadites were they weren't Deadites yet. I think they were just meat sacks, not being used for anything at all, which is fine because she didn't need them at that point. I say she about the fucking demon, she is a she, who knows what the fuck it is. It might identify as a male, who knows? Might not identify as anything. But anyways, moving forward, I think that she knew that, one, there's another demon in the house, and it's coming to fruition, which was the daughter turning into, which, by the way, brings up another point. Who the fuck, during something like this, who separates? Well, white people, that's for sure. They were white, but they separated. I would not, as the aunt, would not let those kids out of my fucking sight. You're going to stay by me. Oh, I got to go listen to this real quick. Y'all motherfuckers just, I know she didn't want to have them hear it, but she was using headphones.
Well, yeah, you have a point about the headphones, but also I think she was afraid that when she listened to that there would be more demonic stuff happen, and she was afraid it would be centered around the record. At least that's the context I got in the movie.
I understand that, but what if it didn't? What if it happened where the kids were?
Well, that's true. I mean, but it's you have fair points, but at the same time, within the context of the movie, trying to put yourself in the character's point of view, I think she was assuming that it was somehow centered around the book and all that stuff was around her, and that if she kept the kids as far away as she physically could, which is in the room, because I mean they did a good job of establishing they were trapped in the place they were at. There was no real escape from where they were at.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know what she would have done once she found out that the middle daughter was possessed. I don't know what you're supposed to do. Like, you can't kick her out, and they can't kill her. I don't know. There is so much desperation in this film that I was feeling the entire time. What else did I want to bring up? The hallway. We talked about the kid dying in the hallway. They did use those bodies when the time was necessary. I thought it was creepy when they're all screaming "Dead by Dawn." That was
which
cool.
is a very good callback to the original series as well. So
I didn't like that. Okay, there was a cat in the film, and you knew I was going to bring it up.
Yes,
the cat does not die in the film. The cat has a very short cameo in the film. Just so everybody knows, the kitty also does not have a name. I have named him. If I can scroll down to where I was at. Oh, there he is, right there. He's Clifford Pawsbury, and this is his first acting gig, and he did a great job.
If you're going to go with the hallway stuff, there's one thing that I want to mention. They kept setting up that one room was locked off.
Oh yeah,
and we never see the room. That was my one aggravation. It's like, what the fuck's in there?
What is in that room? It had been condemned for I don't know how long, but it did have a fire escape. They said something about that room would lead them to the fire escape, but why did they? Why did they block it off? So that I don't know. Well, we already know what happens at the end, which we'll get to that here in just a moment. Do you think there's any possibility that when the demon dug its claws into the ant's stomach to try to go for her baby, which that was sick when it was listening to the heartbeat, like it was a sonogram. Oh my God, that was fucking.
And then it makes the mention that she does the classic line from Henrietta, from the original series, saying, "I'll swallow your soul," but then she hears the beat and she's like, "I'll swallow two souls or whatever."
Yeah. Do you think there's a chance that baby could be affected now that she's literally sunken her claws into it? That's an intentional infection.
That's what I'm saying. Like with the scraping scene, even if it didn't infect the mom, I wonder if it got to the kid. That's my biggest concern, Because it looks like, according to the end of the movie, which, by the way, the beginning of the movie, I'm going to say it now because we're getting to the end. The beginning of the movie is at the cabin. It's a short, couple minutes, kind of setting up what happened. What this led to. Yes, it was so good. And this is what happened after what happened at the apartment scene. So we establish this is the end result at the very beginning of the film. The movie was so good in its horror and fear and its lore and everything that was involved, I completely forgot about what happened at the beginning of the film until it returns again and you see the girl, which, by the way, folks, this is the end, where the hallway to hell is one floor of the building, and it has been affected entirely, but no other floor has been affected. So while all this shit is going on, all the floors below, I don't know what floor this room, I think it was the 13th floor that they were on. They were on the 13th floor, yeah.
So all the floors below and above were not affected, although I would say the floors above would be affected because they can't use the fire escape anymore. On one side of the building. Stairs because the stairs have fallen down, like on the 13th. They have collapsed, and everyone below must not have heard anything that was going on, or didn't. I don't know. Anyways, so they weren't affected.
The shotgun blasts were the only ones that wouldn't have made any sense, but it's LA, so when they hear guns, I guess they just have to tune them out. I don't know.
Yeah, and this looked like a pretty shitty part considering that garage. But anyways, so we see somebody from the apartment building excited to go to her party, which was the first scene of the film. Wasn't much of a party, but whatever. And she's on her way to pick up her cousin, and she notices all the gore, and then, big shocker, the demon rapes her in the mouth. So he's found a new meat sack. So that's where we're at with this. I don't know what point I was getting to other than explaining the end of this, but the fact that I feel like that demon really could have affected more people in that apartment building, like a mass of people.
So they have many places they can go. The book is still in the building. The book was never taken out of it. Wherever they went to with the cabin is now infected. That area is, which could be the cabin. It could be how it actually got to the cabin in the remake. That could be what they were setting up with that. Or something similar. Although in that one they established that the guy had found the Necronomicon while he was out, so that could be a wholly different thing. But anyway, so they've got like the setup wherever the cabin's at as being infected, is an area where the demons are at now. They've got the whole high rise that the original was in that could have all kinds of stuff affecting it. And then I don't know. I mean, there's multiple places they can take it from here, and then they could always work it back in the Ash versus the Evil Dead, because to my knowledge, they're still in the same universe. And to go one further, Raimi has said in the past that Drag Me to Hell, which he is working on a remake to, or not a remake, but a continuation of, that takes place in the same universe as the Evil Dead movies.
Wow.
So we'll see if that ties in somehow to this.
Yeah. You also mentioned the multi-body, if you will, the the
the
blob.
abomination, as it
Yeah.
were.
And several movies have been brought up, and video games actually, for that thing. I was thinking The Thing.
I thought The Thing as well. It looked like something from that movie. Yeah.
There was, oh God, I forgot what page it was, and I'm not even going to try to look for it right now. Bloody Horror Disgusting, or Bloody Disgusting Horror. There we go.
Bloody Disgusting, yeah.
And there's a page on Facebook. I don't think you're on it, at least not the one that I'm on. But anyways, they had a picture of it, and people were talking about a specific video game, and I was like, I've never actually even heard of the video game. So anyways,
it just came out within like the past year, I believe it was, and a lot of people. There's been several Evil Dead video games, but like this new one is like really. It's been like, I think like Raimi and Campbell and Tappert, who are the ones that are the producers over all this stuff, you know, and ones that created originally. They have all came out, I think, in like in support of the game, like saying that it matches up with their vision, so it got a lot of cred that way, and a lot of people have seemed to have enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah. Oh God. I don't know that I have anything else for this film. Oh wait, yes I do. Last thing I want to discuss that I could think of at the moment is, can we talk about how the actresses look like each other? The girl at the beginning who was infected, the infected mom, and then the mom's sister. I think they did a really good job with casting, although I don't know why the girl at the lake party would have to look like any of the other two.
That's your racism showing. You can't tell white people's faces apart.
No, the sisters
they did look very similar. I will agree with that.
Yeah, the sisters look like sisters. They didn't look like, because sometimes you get sisters that look, or brothers that look just too much like each other, and it's like, wow, again, no DNA test necessary. But sometimes you get a brother and sister, or sister and sister, vice versa, that look just enough like each other that it's like, well, they're definitely related. And these two look like they were definitely related, even though they're not. Now, the girl at the beginning, it's like they had a thing. My theory about it was the skinny face you look more gaunt when you're possessed if you're skinny enough.
Yes. It's kind of like your body's rotting and you get that decrepit, like, like your flesh is shrinking in type look or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, yeah, that's all I have. Do you have anything else?
I was just going to go over the trivia that's on IMDb. Some of it's pretty cool.
Let's do it.
So the film was originally meant to release exclusively through HBO Max via direct-to-video streaming or direct-to-streaming, but it performed so strongly during test screenings, that's why they decided to release it theatrically instead.
Oh, thank God, because I seeing this in the safety of my house wouldn't have had the same effect.
No, it was way better on the big screen. They used 1,720 gallons of fake blood in this movie.
Ooh, okay. What movie have we watched recently where they used a shit ton of blood and we were like, yeah, it was a Nightmare on Elm Street, wasn't it?
Nightmare on Elm Street, yes,
the
because of the
one?
scene with Johnny Depp.
Yes.
Funny you say that, because this movie was, if you noticed, a New Line Cinema movie.
I did not notice that.
And also, when the teenagers came to ask the daughter if she wanted to join them, they were getting ready to have a Freddy marathon. If you didn't catch that,
I did catch that. Yes, and I was like, "Oh shit! I just did that."
Yep, I thought that was pretty cool. So it was shot in chronological order, which we've established from The Devil and Daniel Webster that hardly ever occurs. Like, most movies, it's like, they shoot out a sync to whatever, they can get at the time, whatever's convenient when the actors or as far as the locations available. But in this one, apparently they shot it, how you see it in the movie is how they shot it. So.
Wow. It's not common.
No, it's not common at all. The pizza place in the movie is called Henrietta's, calling back to the character from Evil Dead 2.
Yes.
On, let's see, the Extravision podcast, Lee Cronin, the director, revealed that all the characters' names were named after actors that had previously appeared in the Evil Dead series.
Yes, there was a Bruce in there for sure. Although I don't know who Danny was, because Danny was the transgender boy.
That might have been the name. I've not looked at the Evil Dead cast in a long time, but that could be the guy who has like the eyeball in his mouth or whatever in the first movie, and like the blonde-haired guy that turns into the demon right after that.
Let's take a look. Real quick. Let's see if it shows me. Dan,
while you're looking that up, I'm going to throw this out there. That he also revealed that the name of the building that the movie takes place in is called the Monde, Monde, and that's an anagram for demon.
Oh shit! I did not know that.
It's the only Evil Dead film not to feature the 1973 Oldsmobile Delta 88 which is Sam Raimi's old car that he's had in every single thing that he's filmed, including the terrible Multiverse of Madness movie, the Doctor Strange movie. I say terrible because I didn't enjoy it, but some people did.
Yeah, which is funny because in this apartment building, that car would have sat just fine.
Yeah, and the car that they had that the family was driving almost looked like it was some take on that, but like a more station wagon version of it or something. It had the same coloring and all that. Yeah,
like I feel like that car could have fucking easily rammed through that gate, but then they probably risked fucking blowing the radiator or something, and they just couldn't take that risk. So
yeah, it barely started, so
that's true.
It kind of made sense.
The fact that it started genuinely surprised me. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, most movies they don't.
Yeah,
so that's a good point. The director did confirm that the cat survived. So There you go, folks.
I also got confirmation that he would never harm an animal in a film, allegedly. But I guess he wasn't part of the remake. Sam Raimi would not hurt an animal. But Sam Raimi was only a producer on this. He wasn't like...
Sam Raimi's been a producer for like most of this stuff for a long time, because producing, like, they literally have to do nothing other than sign, the rights, because they own the rights. They just have to say, okay, you can play in my universe, just give me money. That's all they have to do.
Okay, but what about Bruce Campbell?
He's the same. I guess because he worked with, was in all the previous movies, Raimi like gave him and Rob Tappert are both like producers along with Raimi. They're like, if you want to say co-owners, so they do the same thing. It's like, if you want to do anything Evil Dead, even if it doesn't involve Bruce specifically, like he gets a cut of it.
That's awesome.
Which is cool for him.
Yeah, and not only that, but I bet you he owns Ash. Like he just owns it. I bet you that's just, like there's no, like even, I wonder if Sam Raimi even has, I'm sure he has some rights to it because obviously it's his creation, but I'm pretty sure he's just like, here you go, Bruce, because this is you, because you made Ash, Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He made the character. So, funny thing is, he was actually, even though he wasn't in this movie, his voice was. He was one of the priest that was in the background during the recording saying, "Destroy it. It's called the Book of the Dead for a reason." So he's actually in the movie.
Awesome. I love it. What do you think of the female version of Ash in this movie? I thought she was amazing.
I thought she was cool. Now, if you go back and watch the remake, they did establish another female version of Ash in the remake, and the actress was good in that, and she actually was a Deadite for most of the movie, which was a change on everything. She was the Deadite in the basement that they had to fight throughout the entire movie, and then like she overcame the corruption. I guess she's like the second character outside of Ash that did. But the actress, for whatever reason, didn't want to be typecast as one of those, with all that bullshit. And so she never went on to do anything major afterward. And then that killed their plans for, like, making her they wouldn't go make her a new Ash, because they actually were talking about she was going to be, like, actually meet Ash in a future film or at least a TV show. But the actress didn't want to come back, so it killed all their plans. And so now with this new actress, as long as she's cool with it, she could be the one that, like, is the established, like alt Ash or whatever that's going forward. So
yeah, this movie wasn't very girl powery, despite having a ton of girls in it.
I think this is cool. The director, whenever he said that was Bruce Campbell's cameo, said that, and this is canon because he's saying it, that actually could be Ash himself saying to destroy the book, because Ash, does time travel.
Oh yeah.
So that could have been Ash in the back of the recording. So we actually could have got Ash in the movie that way.
Oh my God.
Let's see. It's the second film in the Evil Dead series to be shot in 239-1, and the first in the series to be filmed in Panavision or anamorphic. The previous installment, Evil Dead 2013, was filmed in 239-1 using spherical lenses, while the original trilogy, directed by Sam Raimi, which also serves as executive producer, was shot in the spherical 185-1. So it's going along the same But they had a lot of Sam Raimi flourishes in this movie, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff we've already covered anyways, talking about the throwbacks.
Yeah.
Yep, they're even talking about how the cords wrapping around are the same as like the tree rape scenes in the previous movies.
They avoided the rape scene, but they really didn't. Like, there was innuendo.
Yeah, that's it. It almost implied that it was getting ready to happen, but it didn't.
Yeah.
It says aside from the obvious tide of blood coming from the elevator, there are other references to Kubrick's The Shining. At the beginning of the movie, there's a fast flight through the woods, which is the drone, which was a pretty cool effect.
Yeah.
Just like the one used in the original Evil Dead movies and series to symbolize the movement of the demonic entities. In one moment, it flies over a lake, very similar to the beginning of The Shining. Later, when Ellie is left outside the apartment, Beth is holding the entrance door, very similar as Jack Nicholson does when Shelley Duvall locks him up in the pantry. The same shot from the bottom to the top is used. So I guess there's a few more Shining references in this movie than what we initially caught.
Yeah.
Let's see, the Dead by Dawn reference to Evil Dead 2. The tree surgeon truck is named Fonda's, possibly as a nod to Bridget Fonda, who appeared as Ash's girlfriend in the opening sequence in Army of Darkness.
Oh, God.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
Unlike the previous film set in the cabin in the woods, this one was shot in the city, and the protagonist is not Ash. Well, we know that. And then Beth, some of these are just like points that people make. And then Beth, as well as David from the 2013 remake, are the only protagonists to not lose a hand in the fight against evil.
Yeah.
Which David is, David from the remake's not the final person. And in fact, the girl in that one who becomes like the Ash-like figure, she does lose her hand. So I don't know if I would agree about protagonist, because David is a protagonist, but he gets killed right before the end. So, and the girl like gets her humanity back. And then she does actually lose a limb in that movie when she's fighting like this abomination from hell that rises up, which a lot of people I've heard to complain that movie is that it goes that route at the end. I loved it. It's like it starts raining like blood, because like the world is ending and like this thing rises up from the ground and it's like called the abomination and she has to fight it. And that's when she has her Ash moment. But, a lot of people complain because the rest of the movie doesn't play out anything like that, and it's more like grounded, except for, the demonic stuff. But it's grounded in the sense that there's no hope for anybody, and like that one just like, it skews into the more heroic stuff. And this one kind of does the same thing at the end, but I loved it whenever she like picked up the chainsaw. I'm like, finally, we're getting back, to the female Ash in this scene. So
yeah, but I will say this. She got maybe she felt like she had defeated the situation, even though she had just got done listening to It Can't Be Killed, whatever. I felt like they were too calm after that. Like there was no urgency to get the fuck out of there. I wanted to get the fuck out of there, so.
She did pick up the chainsaw, though, with the assumption that she was going to have to fight her way out of. So, that at least was better, because that's my biggest complaint in a lot of horror movies is that the protagonist just drops their weapon after they think they're done. And I'm like, keep the weapon. It's not going to hurt you to have that in your hand in case something comes around.
Bitch,
what the fuck
you've
are you
seen
doing?
this. There's shit out there now. What the fuck? And not only that, okay, like, how do you think they would explain them walking out covered in blood?
The whole thing about it is going to be hard. But the only thing to their credit is I feel like any first responders are going to be busy other places, because that was it wasn't a big earthquake, but it was enough to cause some damage. So they were going to be tied up at other places. So
that's true. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
Anything else you want to say about the movie before you kick out of here? So.
No, I hope you enjoyed that spoiler review. You need to go see it in the theater if you get the opportunity, or if you haven't. And if you can watch it again, good for you. I will I'll never see that movie again.
Are you going to, whenever we cover the Evil Dead series, you're going to at least watch the remake? Even
yes.
though it's like this movie? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have to. And I haven't seen it, so I have not even heard comparisons between the two yet. So I'll try to steer clear of that. The only thing I know about the 2013 remake is that the dog dies in it. But people were like, look, like, yes, and you hear it suffering, but you don't see anything. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll just have to mentally prepare myself for that. That's what I'm most concerned about, if you want to know where my head is. So,
yeah, there's a company out there, and I can't remember the name of it. It's Angel something or other that, like, is a Christian company that, like, cuts out, like, nudity and, like, cursing and stuff like that in movies. They need to make the horror version of that where they cut out, like, the animal death scenes for like horror fans that can't deal with that sort of stuff. I don't like it when there's death scenes, like, or animal death scenes in movies. Believe me. That's the one complaint I have. I mean, this is a tangent, but, like, there's a movie called The Medium that came out on Netflix. And there is a horrible scene in that movie where, and I'm saying this is a spoiler so people can know, where a little lap dog gets, like, boiled alive, and you can hear it, like, screaming out as it's being, and I'm like, fuck this movie like this. I mean, and the worst thing is, and this, they threaten a baby the same way in the movie, right at the same time they're doing that, the dog gets killed, and I hate to say it, but I was freaking out more about the dog.
Yeah,
like, I know they're not going to do the baby. I know they're not going. I know they're not going to kill the baby, but they're going to kill this dog, like, for the shock of it.
Well, and now that begs the question: how did they get those dog screams? What did they do to get those doggy scream noises?
Well, I will say this, and I can't remember the country, so this sounds horribly racist of me, but it's not Thailand, but it's like some, it's close.
Oh God.
They set up in the movie that, I mean, like, one of the family members, is called a hypocrite because, like, she owns a family pet, but she serves dog meat, like, at her, like, little restaurant that she has, because apparently they eat dog there. I mean, that's the, that's what Westerners, make fun of about Asian cultures, is they eat cats and dogs.
Yeah.
And, and so, like, her family pet's the one that gets, like, killed by the demonic possessed person.
Yeah.
Because, like, she refuses to, I mean, like, she's being a hypocrite about keeping one. So,
I mean, but, like, don't farmers eat hamburgers but still have cows? And yeah, they work. They're for milking and everything, but, like, look at, just saying, it happens.
It's just a thing, and I don't know. We'll have to. I know, for instance, Cody always likes a good alert on movies that have an animal death scene, so he can avoid that movie, or at least the part that's in it. So
yeah,
we always try to get the rut row if we can on these type of things.
Well, at the very end of this podcast, we're here to tell you the cat survives in Evil Dead Rise, so you can watch it, Cody. You can watch it.
Yeah, you just get to see even a kid get killed in the movie, so there you go. I mean,
it's fine. The kid comes back to life. It's cool. It's cool.
All right, everybody, join us for the next podcast when we cover Nightmare 4 through 6. And with that, peace be with you.
And with your spirit.